For the News Channel 5 network and millions of conversations, this is one of millions of conversations.
Hi, welcome back to the Millions of Conversations show. I'm your host, Samar Ali, and with me today is my friend Liza Garonzik with R.E.A.L Discussion. I am so excited that you're here with us today, Liza, especially because we're going to be talking about the art of listening. You are a teacher by background, and you taught elementary school. Am I right on this? Or
Elementary, middle, and high.
Okay, wow. So how many years were you teaching?
I taught for about 8 years across different divisions.
Okay, 8 years. So what made you decide to stop teaching in the formal setting in the school system full-time and start your own company called R.E.A.L Discussion that's centered around listening?
Yes. So as a teacher, one of the things that was abundantly clear to me was that my students were struggling to talk and truly listen to each other. And this was true whether the kids were 8 or 18. But they were often scared to communicate live, right? They're a generation who would rather text than talk. And especially starting in middle and high school when they have access to technology, they often would text instead of talk. And with that also I saw a decline in listening skills. And I said, wait, what can I do about this? How can I help kids learn to communicate better in person? And I talked to other teachers and they were similarly concerned and frustrated. And so I said, all right, let me step back and build a system for teaching these critical skills.
Right. So can you give me some examples of how it affected the relationships and that you were seeing that manifest and how that was impacting the relationships and how that in turn interfered with perhaps their ability, I'm guessing, to learn?
Absolutely. So you'd see it in lots of different ways. I would say for many students, they felt like they were scared to say the wrong thing, or they were scared to be canceled by their peers. They were scared to be judged, or that what they would say would be wrong or offensive to somebody. And so their approach would be, I'm just going to withdraw. I'm not actually going to go there. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum, is you saw students withdrawing. Another end of the spectrum is you see students with kind of not a lot of self-regulation skills. And so they're talking a blue streak, right? And they're not leaving space for other voices. And when other kids are talking, they're just thinking about what they want to say next.
Right.
And I asked one of them, I had this conversation with a bunch of Gen Z students, and I kind of said, so has anyone noticed that in this conversation, you all have repeated the same idea about 15 times? Like why is this hard here? And one of them had a really interesting insight. She was like, well, online, I just get to respond and comment, and then I can decide to go back and look at what other people said.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that to me was a light bulb moment of, okay, for a generation that is growing up on screen, at school, we need to teach real world communication skills and teach kids that there's a difference between how you show up in person, whether it's talking or listening or both, and how you're communicating on screen. And if that's not made really clear, we can't expect kids to know that.
Was there a particular age group that was affected more than another?
I think the research is pretty clear that early adolescence, which up till now has really coincided with the time when most kids are getting their first device, that has proven to be an area of particular challenge. Because if you're 12 and you need to have a hard conversation with a classmate on the playground, you can either have it face to face, or you could wait and send a mean message at night. Now, if you ask kids about it, though, what they'll say is, oh, well, instead of talking to Summer directly, I sent her a message so that she had privacy in responding to it.
Right.
And I think as adults, what we know is actually it's really important for friendships, but also for, leadership, for teamwork, to be able to have those moments where you might say something, realize that it lands a little weirdly. You have to say it again. Right. You have to ask you might have to offer an apology, and you move through that moment together. For middle schoolers who aren't getting that opportunity live, it can be really challenging.
So are you calling it listening impaired? Is it a listening impairment problem?
Interesting. I've never thought of it framed that way. I've thought of it more as, in most US schools, listening stopped showing up on a report card around age 8, which is when listening is really thought of in terms of being graded for listening as whether you can follow instructions in school.
Okay.
So beyond age 8, there hasn't been a great benchmark for what listening actually looks like, with the exception of foreign language classes. When kids start to learn French or Spanish, then there's auditory, an auditory component to those classes. So I don't know, it's hard to say whether it's an actual impairment, but it's certainly a lack of active listening skill.
Right.
The good news, though, is that these skills are totally teachable.
Yeah, and I want to get into that. So how did you make the determination that it wasn't going to be enough for you to be introducing this into your daily routine as a teacher in the regular school system?
Well, I think a couple of things were happening in the world beyond just my classroom. So yes, I observed this in my classroom, absolutely. But then I also felt keenly as a, citizen of our country and as a mother of a young child.
Yeah.
I was really concerned about how divided and distracted we are as a society. And for me, once I started putting 2 and 2 together, that if we aren't teaching these skills in school, we can't expect the next generation to have the conversations that I believe our world has to have.
Right.
It felt a lot bigger than just my classroom. And when I started talking to other teachers and asking them if they too were concerned about what they saw as kind of a lack of ability to just talk and listen, I mean, there was no question. I had to leave the classroom to do this work at scale.
So when did you leave, and what did you do next?
So I left in 2021. At that point,
So right in the middle of COVID. I mean, or right after the big height of COVID.
Right
how we're
after-
talking about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
right after the height of COVID, and actually it was January the 6th, 2021, when I knew that I needed to leave. I felt called to do this work more broadly,
Okay.
beyond just my school. And I jumped in, and we at that point had a teacher training program and a curriculum that was built. So we already had some pilot schools.
So
and we
you
jumped right
developed
in.
that curriculum.
I did.
Okay.
I did. And the curriculum, R.E.A.L, is actually an acronym. So it stands for 4 foundational skills in conversation: relating, excerpting. Excerpting, really, it's kind of a fancy word, but what it really means is just using examples. So not talking in generalities all the time.
Okay.
Asking, and then listening, which I know is obviously a favorite for the Millions of Conversation community.
Yes, we have our pledge to listen. Yes, exactly. That's how we met. We actually met in Nashville.
Yes.
Right? Because we were speaking at a gathering that you were at of teachers, which was of all women's schools. Is that correct?
I think so. I think it was a girls'
An
school.
international girls' school coalition gathering at Harpeth Hall here in Nashville.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you developed R.E.A.L. So you became an entrepreneur in 2021, essentially.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit more about R.E.A.L's impact over how it's going and what you've done over the past 4 years.
It's been a whirlwind, but what keeps me going is just the feedback from students. So one of the things that's really core to our model is that we build all of our curriculum based on input from Gen Z and Gen Alpha
But are
kids
you
themselves.
teaching students or are you teaching teachers?
We have a method that teachers use in the classroom that
Okay.
is student facing. So it's critical to us that what we're training teachers to do
Okay.
actually resonates with the kids,
Right.
because otherwise they just will roll their eyes
Right.
and go back to texting afterwards.
Okay. So what's resonating with the kids? Can you give us an example?
Yes, things that resonate with the kids. Number one, with early middle schoolers, one of the first things we hear about after they've done real discussions at school is they say, I'm not as scared to order food at restaurants.
Oh, wow.
I'm not scared to talk to somebody in the grocery store. Older kids, I would say, it is less about that level of anxiety, but there are quotes like, this was from a Tennessee freshman in high school who said that what she'd learned was that she could have a conversation and disagree with somebody else's idea with not their whole entire identity.
Wow. So you really are helping teach people how to be human in this day and age, essentially, is what it sounds like to me.
I mean, that's our goal.
Or to enjoy their humanity.
To enjoy it, to revel in it, and
Right.
to connect deeply off screen in a way that can be really hard in today's day and age.
That's powerful and amazing. Well, Liza Garonzik with me here. We're talking about R.E.A.L Discussion, an organization and a company that she started a couple of years ago. She felt called. She saw a problem. She wanted to do something about it. Join us after the break. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we can practice some of the skills that she's teaching right here at home. Welcome back to the Millions of Conversations show. I'm your host, Samar Ali, and I'm here with my friend, Liza Garonzik, who's a teacher and an entrepreneur who started R.E.A.L Discussion to help students and teachers figure out how to do better in the classroom through listening. I'm calling it, we're dealing with a listening impairment. Liza is not saying that that's what we should call it yet, but that's what I'm going to call it for shorthand, just for the brevity in the conversation here today. And one of the things that we were talking about was that you had one of the students who said that based after going through your curriculum, they felt it was easier to have a conversation with somebody in the grocery store.
Yes.
And order food
Yes.
at a restaurant,
Yes.
and et cetera. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'd love to dig a little bit deeper and also think about maybe some practice homework that we can ask our viewers and listeners to do at home.
Right. I'm a teacher. I love homework. I'm happy to assign homework. Okay, point number one, I think, is this is something that we've heard from hundreds and hundreds of students.
Okay.
The comment about it's easier to order food at a restaurant after having had real discussions at school, or it's easier to talk to a cashier at a grocery store. So that's important to realize. This is like a pretty widespread
Why are they
phenomenon.
having difficulties talking to them in the first place?
So in the words of, this took my breath away, this quote from, it was a sixth grader who wrote that otherwise she just stood there with her head down when somebody was talking to her because she was so scared she was going to say the wrong thing.
Oh, that's so sad.
And when you realize that that's the level of anxiety that many of these kids are carrying around,
Right.
you understand why, if they're teenagers, they'll do self-checkout instead of a cashier all the time. But one thing you'd asked was, like, how can we correct this, right, as a society, not just in classrooms, but beyond classrooms? Like, the two of us in daily life, how can we go about kind of promoting listening more broadly?
Right.
And one thing that I love to do is when I'm at a grocery store, just to keep the grocery metaphor going here,
Yeah.
and checking out, to ask your cashier a question.
Right.
And it can be something like, what are you up to the rest of the night when you get off work? And I did this yesterday, and the woman was like, well, I'm going to go celebrate my grandkids' birthdays. They're twins. And the next step is the killer. So it's not just ask a question, it's then ask a follow-up question that reflects that you truly heard what she said. So then the follow-up question was, oh, how old are they? Boys, girls? How old are they turning?
And to genuinely be interested too, so it doesn't feel like it's scripted or.
To genuinely be interested, right? To have your question be so specific that she knows that you listened. And I think that those kind of micro interactions can add up and really help us as a society rebuild the conversation muscle that feels as if it's so lost in today's world.
Yeah, I practiced this recently myself. Actually, I had to go renew my license at the DMV, and I ended up becoming friends, and people were actually kind of confused at the laughter that was coming from, people were looking at us.
You don't think of
because we
laughter in the DMV.
Right, right, because we were actually connecting, and she told me that my picture didn't look very good, and we needed to take it again, and she gave me some tips on how to pose. It was a real rapport, and she was talking to me about this cousin camp that she'd been a part of, and it really was this connection, and I think that human connection, it sounds to me, and tell me if I'm wrong or right on this, it sounds like people are craving it, but they don't yet know how to go about it because of these screen interventions that have been happening between people in community with each other.
Absolutely. I think kids are craving the real world connections with each other. I think adults are craving real world connections with each other. And I hope that we're able to kind of build a society where there's more time for that. There's more time off screen to connect with each other, because that ultimately is deeply human. It's uniquely human. It's something AI was never going to be able to do, is to actively listen and engage and take in, the full emotional experience of engaging in a conversation.
Right. So you're saying that you want this to help better society is what I'm hearing from you too.
Yeah.
How do you see this happening in that way? Are you also seeing that it's helping parents? Is it translating over into dinner conversations that are happening?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Parents are some of the first people to comment on this new skill set that children have learned in school. And we have countless anecdotes of this actually was another Tennessee school recently where there was an 8th grade sleepover party and a mom had to help it was a group of 8th grade girls who needed to decide whether they were going to go bowling or to play laser tag after having pizza.
Okay.
And they had a different plan, but the place was closed. And so the girls said to the mom, can you just start a timer and give us 10 minutes? We're going to have a real discussion about it. And they sat in this pizza parlor, apparently, and came to a consensus.
Wow.
And they were going to go bowling. And the mom she wrote to the principal immediately and said, I don't know what you're doing, but our world needs this.
Wow.
And we have...
Who was this in Tennessee?
This was in Chattanooga.
Okay.
Yeah, so not far. So there are examples like that. There are also lots of examples of younger students, so say more elementary. With Real Discussion, one of the things that we teach to help make sure that everybody in a group gets an opportunity to speak is that you hold up a finger for every time you've already talked.
Okay.
So if you haven't talked yet, you hold up a fist.
Oh, interesting.
And what that means is like, somebody make space for me. Somebody call me into the conversation. And we've heard a lot of elementary schoolers bring this home to the dinner table as a way to help them get their voice in, amidst other siblings or amidst parents who are talking about work. So that's another pretty concrete example of how these skills transfer beyond the classroom.
And how many schools have you advised on this? Have you helped establish a curriculum in?
80 so far. We're
80.
hopefully just getting started. 80. Yep.
In 4 years?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you've mainly been in Georgia, Tennessee, or all over the country?
All over the country.
Okay. Okay, so across the country. Are you looking to go global out of curiosity?
I certainly would love to. I think that this is a deeply human skill set that can transcend cultural divides when done well.
Okay.
So I think that would be ultimately the most powerful thing.
So how do the trainings work? If somebody wants to be a part of Real Discussion, or if a teacher wants to tap into this, or somebody who's listening right now is like, I want this at my school, what's the next step that they take?
Check out our website, realdiscussion.org is kind of the first step. We offer trainings for teachers usually over the summer because that's when they have the most time and space to learn. And then you could start implementing your curriculum the following year. Usually we work with a principal or somebody at a school who really has a vision for building their school around teaching these human skills.
Okay.
And that's generally where the initiative starts, is with the principal. Although every now and then, a teacher who's really committed will bring it in themselves.
Okay, so the principal brings it in. The teachers then get trained on this curriculum, and it starts in elementary school as early as 1st grade or 2nd grade?
Yep, 1st or 2nd grade, all the way up through high school.
And is it the same exact curriculum, or it's different for each grade?
It's different for each grade. And the way that we think about it is we think about teaching conversation like teaching a sport. So in elementary school PE, you think about how you learn to play soccer, right? In elementary school PE, you were learning how to pass, how to dribble, how to shoot, these discrete skills. So in elementary school, we're teaching how to relate, how to ask, how to listen. Middle school is about scrimmaging, right? And it's kind of the conundrum of, I have the ball. What am I going to do? Am I going to pass? Am I going to shoot? And how does that impact the rest of the team? And then in high school, it's really discussion as a team sport. I think so often
I love that.
we feel like discussion, or you ask kids about it, and they feel like discussion is something to be won or lost. And the way that you win a discussion is by talking the most or sounding the smartest. And in high school, we're really out to disrupt that with our model, because it requires all of the skills: relating, excerpting, asking, and listening to have a good discussion. And the whole point of discussion is to do something that you can't do by yourself.
That's amazing. Well, you have certainly given us a lot to think about. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to give you a homework assignment, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Millions of Conversations show. I'm your host, Samar Ali, and I'm here with my friend Liza Garonzik, who just gave us a wealth of information. Thank you. Some of my takeaways here is that, first off, I love what you said about discussion as a team sport. it's not zero sum. And I think that that's something that all of us can really be taking away here right now, both for our kids and students, but also for ourselves as adults and members of our society that are trying to navigate this current, what feels like a very current fragmented environment. The second is you've given us a homework assignment, and that is let us, the next time we're in a grocery store, let's not go through the self-checkout line. Let's go through a line of where we have to interact with a sales clerk and we have to talk to them about their day. And we have this exchange of where we talk about our day as well. We have this human-to-human interaction of where we practice our listening skills with somebody else that we carry on over to the dinner table as well. And let's observe ourselves of how we're doing as a family and as we are engaging in what could be at moments potentially difficult conversations. Let's think about that in terms of how we do it as a team sport rather than, again, as a confrontational zero-sum way of engaging. And the third thing that's coming up to me really is that I think that at least certainly I'm going to be thinking about, and I encourage our viewers to think about, is maybe we should start testing for listening in our schools. It doesn't have to be a standardized test. Many people feel that they're tested out when it comes to official standardized tests, but maybe there's some way that we can be incorporating, and because that also signals right through testing that it's a priority, and that can help across the board with learning, if I'm not mistaken. Anything else you want to add there, Liza?
No, I think that was a wonderful recap. Thank you so much for this real discussion today, Summer. It's been a blast.
And it sounds like we should all check out the Real Discussion website. I think it's something that all of our schools can benefit from. I'm certainly going to be looking into it for my daughter's school as well. So thank you for that. And also, as always, please join us in taking the pledge to listen. It ties right on into this conversation we have today. And we believe that if we can start by taking this pledge, we can get closer and closer to being a stronger community that thrives.